The Royal Kludge RK71 is a budget-friendly mechanical keyboard that is perfect for people that want to try a board that has a smaller footprint but can't fully commit to the 60% layout. But the question is it any good? Thanks to Banggood, I've had the opportunity to play with this keyboard for a couple months now, and I've been pleasantly surprised. This board is normally priced at $74.99, but there always seems to be some sort of deal or promotion running that pushes the price down to $57.99 or sometimes even lower. I found that for the price, RK has managed to balance the features of this keyboard very well. A quick rundown of what you get is a 10 keyless experience in a 60% form factor, Bluetooth, RGB, USB-C, a surprisingly good typing experience, and N key rollover support in both wired and wireless modes. There's a lot of things to like about this keyboard, but there are a few quirks as well, so let's go through them. This keyboard comes in a branded cardboard box and includes everything you need to get going. You get the RK71 itself, a white USB-C cable, a keycap holder, and magnetic feet to adjust the keyboard height. I know a lot of people rather have the feet built into the case, but I really like these. They're unique and you don't really see them that often. I personally like the default typing height of the RK71, which is a bit flatter compared to the M Pro 2, but if you do end up using the feet, I found the strength of the magnets were good enough to provide a nice and stable typing experience. When you first pull this keyboard out of the box, the first thing that really sticks out is the layout, and I find this is the most attractive attribute of this keyboard. You retain all the navigation keys from a typical 10 keyless layout, but trim all the fat down, removing the underutilized space from your desk. The case on my unit is plastic and it has a textured feel to it. It looks matte and you would think it feels matte, but it's actually smooth to the touch. On the top left, we have a USB-C port. It's recessed in, but fortunately it's bored out pretty wide, so there's no problem supporting USB-C cables with big connectors. On the back, we see a physical on and off switch for the wireless mode. I'm a big fan of these on wireless keyboards just to ensure that the battery isn't being drained when not in use or while being transported. The design aesthetic is kind of interesting and steps away from those generic plastic cases you commonly see on typical 60% boards like the M Pro 2. The angled corners, the vented cutouts make the keyboard look unique, but I'm not a fan of these baby blue side accents and LED pipes. I think a more elegant approach would have been to use a single piece of semi-transparent plastic to act as the RGB diffuser. This way you get a less gamer-like aesthetic, better diffused RGB, and a color scheme that won't clash with various desktop setups. So while the aesthetic isn't a complete hit for me, I am glad to see a company experimenting with different looks. Looking around the case, it becomes very apparent that this is a standardized part, meaning that RK probably uses this on multiple product lines. It's good for reducing costs and passing the savings on to the consumer, but you end up with things like this wireless dongle holder that doesn't really serve a purpose on this Bluetooth enabled keyboard, or this blocker being attached to the plate instead of the case in order to keep the case layout flexible. Aside from that, the only notable thing about this case is the RK logo on the bottom right of the keyboard. The keycaps are lightly textured ABS plastic, and while they're not PBT, they are miles better than the painted ABS keycaps that you get from typical big brand gaming mechanical keyboards that not only shine over time, but also lose their legends. That won't be the case with these. The typeface used on these keys are easily the weakest points of these keycaps, but the double shot is done pretty well on these, providing a very crisp font and very nice RGB diffusion. While I do love that these caps are double shot ABS, I don't really like the texture of the slick sweat-proof coating. It's a bit weird. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's a bit slick and tacky at the same time. It's a minor complaint though, as these are still way better than the gritty matte painted ABS keycaps. If you don't like what's included with the keyboard, you can easily swap these caps out for different ones because RK has kept standard key sizing throughout the entire keyboard, which is fantastic. A cheap and easy upgrade to the stock ABS keycaps would be the HyperX double shot PBT pudding caps. They are incredibly shine resistant and diffuse LEDs really nicely, but you do lose the really helpful hotkey icons, and there's a lot of them too, so unfortunately, you're gonna have to make a choice. Under the caps are TTC blue switches. Not much to say about them other than they provide a very tactile clicky typing experience that feels nearly identical to Cherry MX Blues, but has a clicky sound profile that is not only louder, but also more full sounding as well. It looks like RK has gone ahead and lightly lubed the stabs as well, enough to reduce the wire rattle, but not enough to affect the feel of the switches, which can happen when the stabs are packed too heavily. Here is a sound test comparison of the TCC against one of my boards with Cherry MX Blues. The RK71 has a wide array of in-box RGB options with the ability to fine-tune RGB colors and animation through software. There's a wide array of colors that can be cycled through with the FN and N key, and 17 different lighting effects that can be accessed with the FN and Home key. You'll also be able to easily change the lighting intensity and speed using the FN and arrow keys, but if you don't want to deal with the hotkeys or if you want to create your own custom profiles, there are some additional options inside of the software. The software itself is pretty straightforward. It supports per key RGB assignments, and you can do some light modifications to existing animation profiles, but you can't create them yourself. For the most part, the software gets the job done, and most people will be happy with the control provided by the application. The LEDs on the RK71 are bright, vibrant, and has a very smooth color to color transition, and the way that the LED lights reflect off of the white plate looks really clean. The way that the double shot caps diffuses the light makes the colors soft, rendering them almost a pastel tone, and is very pleasant to look at. Something about the subdued color palette paired with the white just looks really good, with the orange being my favorite. There are a couple of things that I don't like though. First is the power LED. When you're charging the keyboard, this bright red LED stays on the entire time and messes up the RGB aesthetic that you're trying to achieve, unless you're running a completely red theme or something. The side underglow LEDs provide that underglow look that people really like, but they are independently controlled, so regardless of what you set the main LEDs to, you're gonna have to manually adjust these to match. And unfortunately, you're limited to just 6 different colors and 1 rainbow mode. So you may be in a situation where the side LEDs won't match your setup at all. So as far as I can tell, these can't be controlled in the software. You need to trigger them with the FN and insert hotkey. So you're looking for a keyboard that has a unified RGB system that you can match to your desk setup or PC RGBs. This isn't it. You'll have to fiddle around with the settings a bit to get what you want. Looking inside the keyboard, we see that RK is using a metal plate as a way to add rigidity to the keyboard. You know how I mentioned earlier that this case is probably a standardized part that is used in multiple products? Well, we can see the side effect of that here. Throughout the base of the case, you can clearly see the plastic material shaped by hand. Looking around the base of the case, there also seems to be a little bit of room for foam mods, but the space gets tighter and tighter towards the front of the keyboard, so do account for that. On the upper portion of the case, we see that 1000 milliamp hour battery, which is a bit on the small side, but in practice with Bluetooth on and RGB off, I would get about a week's worth of usage. And with the RGB on, I saw anywhere from 4 to 6 days, depending on how much I was using the keyboard and how often I would let the battery saver take over and sleep the keyboard. The sleep functionality kicks in after about a minute without usage and really does work to prolong the battery life, and is a great feature to have because the Bluetooth functionality is such a big power hog. As far as Bluetooth goes, when I first saw the 3.0 spec on this keyboard, I was a bit disappointed. But after using it, I actually didn't experience any issues with disconnects or drop key presses. Funny enough, this RK71 has provided a better wireless experience on a couple of my desk setups than my Amp Pro 2 has with Bluetooth 5.0. The RK71 supports storing more than the 3 typical wireless devices you see on other keyboards. This supports up to 5 devices, which makes it really easy to just pair all your devices and quickly switch through them as needed. Pairing devices on the RK71 is a bit different from other keyboards. To pair, you need to hit the FN and one of the 5 Bluetooth slots and press FN and hold P for 3 seconds to start the pairing process. Once everything is set up, it's a breeze to switch from device to device. Unfortunately, Bluetooth connectivity stability is always hit or miss depending on the environment, so while it may work for me, it may not work for you, so do keep that in mind. So now we get into the software. When you first install it, it will be in Chinese. And unfortunately, if you run into any issues with the software before setting the language, prepare to bust out Google Translate because the error prompts are going to be in a foreign language. In order for the software to detect the keyboard, make sure you're in wired mode with FN plus P, as the handoff between wired and wireless on this keyboard is not automatic. So if you're in the wrong mode, the software won't detect the keyboard and won't start itself. Once you get everything set up though, the software does provide basic adjustments to hopefully enhance your user experience. Of course, the software allows you to adjust the RGB settings, which we already talked about earlier, but it also allows per key programming, but doesn't seem to support programming of additional FN layers, so all the modifications you make seem to affect the default keys. There is also a gaming mode that allows you to disable hotkeys that could disrupt your gameplay, and you can also program macros as well. Pretty standard stuff. All right, so what do I think about the RK71? I think the RK71 is a fantastic entry mechanical keyboard with a very balanced feature set. There's a little bit of something for everyone. The two most appealing features of this keyboard to me are easily the layout and the keycaps. The 70% layout gives users a taste of what a 60% keyboard footprint would be like without having to deal with the navigation keys under a different function layer, which I know a lot of people either don't really like or unsure if they want to commit to. The keycaps are another hit for me. Going with double shot ABS is absolutely the right call and really should be replacing painted ABS keycaps as the entry tier option. Keeping the keycaps the same size as traditional keyboards was the right choice as well, as this makes it really easy for you to swap in other keycaps so you're not locked in with the ones included with the keyboard. All of that plus a decently good typing experience and Bluetooth wireless functionality makes this a fantastic starter keyboard. But if you're looking for a fully programmable keyboard with robust software to back all of that up, along with fine-tuning knobs for RGB, this keyboard may not be for you. But do keep in mind that if you want something like that all in one complete package, it's going to be at a higher price tier. So yeah, if you're interested in purchasing this keyboard, make sure you shop around and can get a deal at or under 58 USD because that is the price point where this keyboard shines at. If you look around and can't pin down a good deal, Banggood has given me a coupon code that brings the RK71 down to $58, so feel free to use that if you like. Well, that's it for today. Like and subscribe. It really helps me out, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.